we can get started. All right, let me mute this so I don't hear myself every time I say something. All right, so welcome everybody to installment number 3 of EAP Senior Interviews. Today we have the wonderful Kyle Taing, who is currently muted. Don't know if that means that we should proceed. We should proceed. All right, cool. Well, I'll just quickly start again. Welcome to the third installment of EAP Senior Interviews. Today we have the wonderful Kyle Taing, who is a 4th year graduating this term, majoring in biochemistry and minoring in microbiology. So today we're going to be talking about and covering issues such as medical school and maybe even discussions of gap years. Also maybe look a bit into Kyle's hobbies, piano and of course the very famous Jeopardy. Okay, so before we begin, Kyle, would you like to quickly introduce yourself? Give us a little taste of the Kyle Taing.
A little taste of the Kyle Taing. Well, okay. See, I'm still thinking about the interview questions that I just went over, George. So, it'll be fine though. Since back then I would have a chance to look at it, but see, I can kind of wing it so that they can get the real experience of Kyle Taing on the spot, in the element.
Yeah.
All right. So, hi everybody. My name is Kyle Taing. I think George summarized my experience quite well. Biochemistry major, microbiology minor. I'm currently the treasurer of the Early Entrance Program Club, EAP Club, as you all know, obviously. I'm also the president of the Chemistry and Biochemistry Club on campus, and I'm an undergraduate academic senator at ASI, the student government on campus. I also do research with Dr. Ba on campus with the Chemistry and Biochemistry department, and I work specifically on cryopreservation, antifreeze proteins, and a little bit of drug delivery as well. Nice to see everybody here. I don't know who's on here. I don't know who sees the stream, but I still know all of you guys, so nice to see you.
Wonderful. So I guess we could start off with the question that we ask lots of people, which is, so where are your parents from? / what do you identify as?
Okay, so I identify as Chinese. My parents came from Vietnam and Cambodia. So my mom came from Vietnam, my dad came from Cambodia, but both of their parents originally immigrated from China. And then they moved to the Southeast Asia countries, and they came here to start a new life in America. And then that helped me get to where I am today.
Very interesting. How is the idea of being a Chinese, I guess, first generation American then affected your way of life and your cultural experience?
My cultural experience. I think I'm actually second generation, am I right? Because they would be first generation.
Yeah, I guess I'm not sure whether it counts as first generation if you're born. That makes you first, or if you're first / second. There we go.
Sure. I think it just impacted me in terms of the how I see the world. It's tough because that has a lot of implications that we could get into. To put it briefly, it just shows me like the passion and dedication that they had in order to so that I can live a better life. The reason why I came to America, their hard work, their diligence. I think that's what they tried to instill in me, both academically and also outside the field of academia, just to strive, just to strive in whatever you're doing, right?
Yeah, certainly. And so, in that sort of idea of work ethic and having a strong goal and diligence, things like that, have you remained on the, I guess, should I say, have you been on the biochemistry path or the goal towards a medical profession from a very young age, or has this been a sort of new occurrence?
It has not been. It's been, for as far as I can remember, it has been like my whole path of going to medical school and becoming a doctor. So I could tell his backstory if you want.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's kind of anticlimactic, but point being, there was one time I was in the hospital, and because I was 4 or 5 years old, a really big stomach ache, and the doctors could not figure out why. Well, even before that, before I got to the hospital, I was breathing in pain, like it was unbearable pain. No one knew why, so we had to go to the ER in downtown LA, and I remember being so sick I could not move at all. and the doctors suggested I had to go into surgery, which scared my family so much. And however, they realized that throughout an hour in the ER, they realized through my scans and labs that it was just a really bad stomach ache with some complications. So they gave me heavy fluids. I stayed there overnight, and it just turns out I had constipation, which was I'm so thankful for that.
Yeah.
When for the doctors in the ER knowing what to do, I wouldn't know like that. I should say that inspired me to become a doctor in the future to help other people.
And would you say that that inspiration came from a base of the doctor's desires to help, or the doctor's possessing information that, you know, is specialized and that they know and then they can sort of provide to somebody? If you get my sort of distinction there.
I think it's both, because that's what makes a good doctor, right? Knowing the information and also being there for you, because you need both the science and the humanity in order to be a good doctor, right?
And so I guess I should then say, with that balance of sort of science and humanity, this is going a little bit off like the script, I suppose. But in your undergraduate career, how have you sought out to like preserve that balance between, okay, I want to make sure that I know that I can be the best doctor that I can, that I know my stuff, but I also want to make sure that I'm like, you know, socialized and can talk to people and can be there for people. How have you sort of balanced those two sides of the coin?
All right, so like you say, it's a fine balance, right? Knowing both science and being able to socialize. So I think that plays into what EAP is kind of about, if you think about it, because you get to take all these classes in college for your undergraduate experience, and you learn a lot from them, obviously. But then you also have a very good social support network where you can make really good and close friends. And from that, you can learn from not only can you help others, but they can also help you strengthen what you want to be in the future.
Certainly. I think that it's certainly a very major point of EAP, which is that idea of, we're going to give you academic acceleration, but we also at the same time give you a supportive peer network through which you can develop your social skills. So it's not like, you know, you're a 13-year-old going into college alone and the inevitable sort of social isolation that might result from that. But unfortunately, right, we experience an age of social isolation no matter what right now. And I think I find it very, very interesting to learn how the COVID pandemic has affected certain individuals and how they managed to grow / maybe even stay the same, like not regress from the point of time in which the pandemic began. So in terms of maintaining social connections and making sure to stay in touch with that side of you, I can certainly imagine how it would be easy to sort of fall into hobbies, like fall into study or fall into gaming or fall into X hobby and just sort of, you know, not really talk to as many friends as you used to and things like that. So how have you managed to maintain those sort of social relationships to keep yourself active?
Texting.
Fair enough.
Yes. Calls like this on Discord, Zoom, FaceTime, texting, just to make sure that because it's tough out there. And over COVID, I just got an email. Speaking of which, communication, right?
Yeah.
So point being is that even though it's tough to connect in the pandemic, I think it is equally important, if not more important, to make sure you're still that you're still how should I say, that you're not isolated, because the classic quote being that no man is an island, right? So you do not want to be isolated, especially in times of these. So it's good to have really strong relationships, strong friendships, and you want to keep that going. And we want to talk about, or we'll wait. I thought we were going to talk about hobbies during the pandemic and whatnot. But that's the main way to maintain relationships.
So okay then. So in terms of social relationships, things like that, it seems like it's something that I think a lot of people will strive for, but becomes a lot more difficult in the pandemic era, of course. Like, granted, if you're a up-and-coming first year, second year, and you want to connect with upper years, it's much easier to do that if you're in the EAP kitchen and you just see them at a table and you just walk up and ask them something random, like, oh, you know, they're a biochem major, so you go and ask them just a question to get the conversation going. But a lot of times that feels a lot more awkward if it's on an online format, right? You just text some person that you don't really ever talk to, and you're like, hello, I would like to talk to you. You know, it gets very difficult and very, you know, the conversations feel very forced and very deliberate. And how would you sort of talk about how you can sort of maintain or slash build social networks? Because it's very easy, if you have friends, just call them, but have you had those situations where you're like, man, I really wish I wanted to talk to that person, but
I have.
how do I go about that?
Let me put it this way. So first of all, there's something that I love about the Eat Kitchen in particular, which is tough to do online. I've talked about this to my friends before. I call it coexisting. So I'm sure that the concept itself is pretty straightforward. You're in the kitchen, right? And you can do work with other people like in the same environment. But if you want to socialize, it's easy for you to just like reach out, like shout across the room saying like talking to people. That I took that for granted. I have no idea how much I took that for granted until the pandemic hit, because that social environment was taken away from all of us, and that's something that we don't have in our in the last year we had together with an Eats is going to be online. So that is something that I wish that I wish we could have done in the pandemic, but because of restrictions, that's very difficult to do. In terms of building relationships, I think that building relationships, actually, some of my strongest relationships have come from quarantine. Actually, just by communicating every day, talking about whatever. It doesn't have to be about school, obviously, right? Just the minuscule, like the random nuances of everyday life. That's just my perspective on it. That's what I've gone through during the pandemic, especially since it's been past the anniversary. This is where we're still trying to acclimate to the pandemic. And then also another thing I want to point out is that I'm still surprised to this day how the first years, even though they had never met because they were just online over the Honors Academy, they are still able to maintain one of the most closest networks I've ever seen within, even though they've never seen each other. I know that they're very close to each other. I know just out of context because personally my sister was she tried out for the Honors Academy last summer, and she was deferred because she didn't have her SAT score due to the pandemic, but she made very close friends with some of the people who are in the first year, and they still talk to this day, which is I think is pretty amazing.
Yeah, I think that certainly it's a very interesting thing to see what it will be like when these relationships come into meeting people. Because I know as somebody who a lot of relationships I have are somewhat like 75% online, 25% in person, which are now obviously 100% online. It's always that weird moment when you sort of there's the superficial aspects of like seeing them in person and then being like taller or shorter than you imagined or what have you, but there's also the very real aspect of communication in person, right? It's always like, it's fine to give a talk or a lecture or something like that in Zoom meeting. You don't really know if people are listening or if they get it. There's a big difference in like energy, granted. So as we can go towards the idea of talking about clubs now, as the president of the chemistry biochemistry club, how have events gone? How have you managed to try yourself to sort of build up these social relationships and things like that?
Again, let's see. That it's been pretty tough. Let me just say it's been pretty tough to maintain stuff over Zoom, as I'm sure that we all know, being on the board of Eat Club, you being vice president, Amanda being president, right? For CBC, a chemistry and biochemistry club, again, it's all about communication. And I gotta say, it's pretty difficult because back then I was on the board. I was the academic chair for the previous year before we went to quarantine, along with Amanda, and then Jacob was also the president at the time. And that in itself, it was pretty like we had to work for people to show up to events every week or two, right? It becomes exceedingly difficult even then to have that over Zoom because you have to convince people to go online and learn about chemistry, share with the community, right? But however, I'm pretty proud of what we've been able to accomplish despite the pandemic. So usually every year we have something called National Chemistry Week. George, out of curiosity, do you know what Avogadro's number is?
I do.
What is it?
I know what it does. I know it's 10 to the negative 23rd. I don't know the actual thing though.
Yeah, so 10 to the 23rd, right?
Yeah.
That's right. So guess what day our chemistry day is. Take a guess.
Would it be 10/23?
Oh, congrats! Nice, great job.
Oh, nice. I think I
October
said negative
23rd.
when it's positive, but life
Yeah.
goes on. Life goes on.
No big deal. It's so our National Chemistry Week falls on the week of October 23rd. So it's the whole
Okay.
timeline. So the American Chemical Society, ACS, they usually host this whole big event, and then us being one of the student chapters, we would do this for Cal State every year. Now, being online, everything was over Zoom, obviously. And a funny thing, a very funny, a peculiar event is that for the first event I ever hosted for for National Chemistry Week, our opening ceremony was actually a game of Jeopardy.
Oh, I see.
And that is the seed that started off me being the Jeopardy host, and that's
Mhm.
why I'm doing all this thing for stuff for Eat Club. But being the
Yeah.
aside from the point, all the events that we had, the Jeopardy for opening and closing ceremonies, we had speakers come by. We had a painter who did something for the who did work for the Walking Dead, I believe, as well as some other big television events.
Mhm.
So because the week was all about cosmetics.
Okay.
And because of that, we had a very fantastic turnout for each day, which is pretty impressive over quarantine. So
Mhm.
on that particular aspect, I'm pretty proud of what I've been
Yeah.
able to accomplish as the president, and also how that also kind of steamrolled into me being a big Jeopardy fanatic slash host for
Yeah.
all the things that I've done, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, certainly. I think that it's been very interesting to sort of vary up the sort of social events that you partake in. It's very
Mhm.
easy just to sort of, do the same thing every night. Like, oh, I'm going to watch something with these people every week, and that's going to be my social interaction. But it's good to get out there and vary things. Have a game night or have a just socializing events, have a watch party thing, do tons of different things to sort of simulate what it would be like when you're back in EAP and you sort of have somebody who's like, oh, do you want to go for lunch? It's like, oh, well, I guess I don't have nothing else to do, so I might as well. And there's that sort of spontaneity that is missing, I think, in online life because everything feels so deliberate, of course.
Yes.
So going back to sort of your path, obviously you're now president of the biochemistry club and things like that. So what's along the way in undergrad, what sort of pivotal figures, pivotal moments led you to becoming, the president of the biochemistry club? Like where did that slot in? Was it just, oh, I saw it online, just wanted to go for it, or what do you think?
Me being the president of chemistry and biochemistry
Yeah,
club.
what led you to the club?
Interesting. Trying to think. It was during my first year where I learned about the chemistry and biochemistry club. It was actually just Jacob saying, "Hey, you should check it out."
Mm-hmm.
And they're gonna do an event. It's pretty fun. So there were so during my first year during the spring semester, I helped out on some of the outreach events. So back then, before quarantine happened, there was an event that Cal State held called Cal State Here We Come. So it'd be
Okay.
students from elementary schools who come in there'd be some points where you see elementary students just
Mhm.
running rampant around campus because they're
Mhm.
going from one building to another. So I think that was that event. And one of the things that we had planned was that we ran little chemistry experiments in the labs. So we showed them what happens if you mix baking soda and vinegar, right? And then we had like little boats that moved around, like little balloons
Yeah.
that came from that reaction. So just the passion of them, like going into chemistry, that was one of the big events that was like, well, I want to be more involved in the biochemistry club.
Mhm.
So with that, I got onto Jacob's board as the academic chair. So we ran tutoring together, and now and Jacob showed me the ropes on being the president after he left when we transitioned into
Mhm.
quarantine style chemistry and biochemistry club.
Nice. So, suppose then I assume as a child, and obviously now as a student, there are things that sort of keep you hooked onto chemistry and biochemistry as like a field. And so beyond the ultimate motives of helping or becoming a doctor, what are those moments or those sides to the field itself that you experience in the class? You're like, oh, that's why I'm doing biochem.
That's what I'm doing biochem. Does it have to? Are you talking about before I joined EAP or like during my time?
Well, I'm just saying generally, if you come across a class or you watch a video or something, what about chemistry, biochemistry, microbiology? What about it is like, nice, that's the field. Is it just the motivation towards that occupation, or are there things in the everyday experience? Like for me in mathematics, I find satisfaction in there being the logic, there being logical steps, each follows from the rest, and there being that sense of like pure truth. What sort of equivalency would that be for you as in motivation in the day to day within your classes? Be like, okay, this is why I'm doing biochem.
I like that. Okay, so I like the logic thing. That just reminds me of the days with Chow and pre-calc and 40. For me personally, it would have to be just knowing the science. So obviously, the steps that I'm taking would lead to like it's part of the pre-med experience. You want to go into med school, but there's some things along the way where you just want to take it in, and you want to, like you said, just want to enjoy. Like this is why I wanted to what I'm doing right now, biochemistry. For me, it's particularly special when they have when there's a medical application to it, a therapeutic use. Specifically, like for example, I'm taking neurobiology right now. I'm sure Amanda can relate with the with the midterm we just had about vesicles and neurotransmitters. The thing about that though is that knowing the processes in biology, specifically on the molecular level, if we can somehow target that and we can treat diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, ALS, right? Because those are things that people suffer on a day-to-day basis, and by using these research techniques, we can somehow better people's lives. So that's the joy I get by reading about specifically how chemistry can apply in a biological setting. So specifically how they can impact the physiology of just the human body. I think that's something that I'm very passionate about. That's why I go to seminars and different presentations on just various aspects of like what this organ system does and how we can manipulate it for our favor. So that's something that I love. That's why I take all these biology classes. I don't need to take it because that's not in the biochemistry curriculum as a major. I'm just taking it for my own, just for the pleasure of knowing more about biology.
It's very, very interesting. As somebody in mathematics who I feel like at times I sort of sit there at the end of a night of studying or at the end of a problem, so I just go, these problems, some of the problems, sometimes they have no application and they feel like purely abstract knowledge. That's something that I've had a lot of conversations with people about. It's like, sometimes it's challenging to motivate yourself in a field where there are times when you sort of feel like, if a lot of this information has sort of disappeared from the world, what would change on a day-to-day level, right? Sure, some like algorithms and computer science might fail from a mathematics perspective, but a lot of abstract mathematics doesn't affect like the person in the moment, right? If you took away the concept of, graph theory, ring theory, these sort of things from the average person, not much would probably change. I feel like in biochemistry and chemistry and microbiology, you have those sort of motivations on the day-to-day scale that like, okay, I am studying this property because it can help me if X condition happens, if X person falls ill, and so on and so forth. I believe your camera is slowly devolving into a mess of pixels, which is a bit tragic.
Oh, that's good. Can you still hear me?
I can still hear you. Yeah, loud and clear.
Can you see me, or is it still pixelated?
I can see old you, but it's frozen. Yeah.
Okay. Let's see if I can resolve that. But anyways, go ahead, George. We can still do the interview.
Yeah, I wonder probably maybe
maybe
turning off camera, turning on camera in Discord maybe might fix it. I'm not sure. But anyway.
Okay, let me go back to that app here.
I guess that's an interesting point. Is the idea of knowledge for knowledge's sake versus knowledge applied to a career path, right? So it's like, granted, right, taking these biology courses will help you on your goal to becoming a doctor. Will help you on your goal in med school and things like that. But what would you say to somebody who wishes to take those classes that are outside of their major just for like fun's sake? Would you say, okay, if it's not really worth your career, because obviously, right, for you, taking extra biology courses will only really help you, right? It's not like it's going towards medical school and things like that. Would you say the same for somebody who's like, oh, well, I'm a psychology major, but I really like some aspects of elementary mathematics, so I'm going to go learn about that. It's like, would you say that that's beneficial? Would you say like sort of stick on the course and full steam ahead type thing?
Okay, first of all, is my camera back on?
Yes, yeah, well, you're good. We can see you again.
All right, good
Yep.
quality, clarity.
Yep.
All right, sounds good. Okay, so for me, all right, so this is what I would tell them, you should pursue everyone. This is college. It's like you have this experience, so you can experience new things, right? You want to try. You want to try it. So that's why you have the opportunity to do different majors, different minors that are not outside your field. Because who knows? Maybe you want to do you might want to pursue that someday, right? For example, like mathematics, sociology, you got the humanities, you got the social sciences, you got the natural sciences, arts and letters. That's why there's so many different majors across the entire college, so you can experience whatever you want. For me personally, if I had time to looking back, if I knew that I wanted to pursue something else besides medicine, just in my own free time, if I wanted to like just learn something new on a particular subject or major, then I would minor in that, or just take an elective just for the heck of it, so I can learn more and just better my own knowledge at that. And just if I'm passionate about it, then there's no harm in taking a class. That's why you're doing it to begin with, right? So that's something I would have done looking back. Yeah.
Yeah, and how do you differentiate in your mind the experiences that you expect in undergraduate versus graduate school? Is there a different motivation for wanting to go into graduate school? Is it like, okay, you're buckling down, you gotta set yourself up and just sort of specialize, or how are you viewing medical school? Do you think there's a possibility that you go into medical school and find that it's another step on that career, or is there a world in which you imagine where you get a master's or a certification in a specific field and then sort of go off in a different direction? Are you giving yourself that option, or are you like, nah, I'm gonna doctor's the goal?
So
What's
for me,
your view on graduate school, I suppose?
medical.
Work. Let's see.
Think of it.
This might not work. Yeah.
Wait,
Okay.
I think of it back. I'm not sure what. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
what that
So on the EAP Discord, it appears that we have like an AFK server. So it moved her out of the voice channel that we're having this interview in, and she's not streaming anymore.
Oh.
Let's see if I can quickly contact her. I don't know if they can be. Okay, we can be heard, so that's good. Let me quickly communicate with Amanda.
All right. This will buy me time to look at the questions now.
Suppose though, maybe we can perhaps still talk. Yeah, Ryan said it's a podcast now, so maybe we can keep going, perhaps. Or we can maybe up to you if you just want to. Yeah, we can probably just chat right now and then edit the segment out and then go back to the questions when we go back to the camera, just so that the video makes more sense.
Okay.
So, what did you have for breakfast today, Kyle?
What did I have for breakfast? I had a sandwich for breakfast.
Ooh, what was inside the sandwich?
Egg, sausage, a little bit of sesame with on both ends.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm now eating some Pringles. I got addicted to that.
Classic Pringles?
Sour cream and onion.
Ooh.
By the way, if Cindy's listening right now to the podcast, I blame her. The thing is, this is not when we edit this is not going to be on there, so I can say this as I please, and she's not going to come back to me on this. Yes, there's a whole long story. She kind of got me addicted to these, so I blame Cindy for that.
I get you. Oh,
how was your thesis?
My thesis is going all right. Yeah. General goal is to sort of take this area of mathematics and make it more accessible to more general people by sort of, taking these proofs, taking these papers that are written with like, oh, it's trivial, it is suffice to show for the reader, all that stuff that sort of omits these lines of logic in the name of concision. My goal is sort of go back in and sort of fill in those gaps, prove the things where it says it's easy to show, just so that the reader can have a more smooth experience and a more smooth introduction to the field. So that's what I'm doing. It's going well.
Pretty
Did my
cool.
thesis defense a few weeks ago. And that was good.
I heard-
So it's going
I
well.
heard, wait, Professor Chow was there?
Yes, he was. Yeah, it was nice.
Wow.
It was very nice.
Who was
Yeah,
on
he's-
your panel?
It was, so it seems like it's a little bit of a different format this time, where the honors course for the thesis serves as the defense, basically. So it's like a 15-minute. So you send in a video. It's like a 10-minute video of your presentation. Everyone in the class watches it, and you have 2 peer reviewers who ask you questions. So you basically on the class day, on your thesis defense day, it's just a 15-minute Q&A session where your advisors ask you questions and your assigned peer reviewers from the class ask you questions. So
So this was the honors 4970, right?
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, I just did that 2 days ago for my defense. So,
Yeah, and how is your? I mean, I will probably get into it in the interview at some point, but how was that for you? How was that experience?
that was good. We had supposed to be a 5-minute Q&A session. So it was the peer reviewers asking questions, and I got some questions from the audience as well. So Jacob was there; he's in my class, so he asked some questions. And Dr. McCurdy, she's in honors college now, but heck, she was the chair of the chemistry and biochemistry department back then. So of course she asked some questions too.
Nice.
And then the director of the honors college had some questions about the discovery of science and the scientific method. So
Wow.
with that too, yeah.
So I'll also partake in the snack break. I have a matcha green tea, the Vert matcha, which is a white chocolate bar with matcha on it, in it, I guess. It's not really, seems a bit of a scam, to call it white chocolate when the chocolate isn't actually white, it's green, but, I won't take it up on them.
Would you eat green chocolate, Joe? I mean, that's just mint. I mean, technically, when people think green chocolate, it's mint.
Certainly will. If it's matcha, I will. If it's mint, I don't know. Mint white chocolate sounds a bit scary. That seems like that is a mixture of flavors that shouldn't be mixed.
Yeah, I feel that.
Cindy, I believe that is a lie. That is a rumor. Cindy said, quote, "Hi, I was told that Kyle was smack talking me." But,
I don't know what you're talking about.
I don't think that happened. I think that was just, rumors happen.
I mean, I don't know what you're talking about, Cindy, if you're listening right now. While I eat this Pringle. That you can't see, but you can hear me chomping down. It's a long story. It was not really a long story. If you wanna put very succinctly, but also pretty without any context, and the story doesn't make sense. She kind of hooked me. She kind of got me. Kept on hooking me to Pringles. Didn't help at all.
I see.
If Cindy, if you're watching this, I'm kidding. Please don't come to my house.
Watching any good shows of late, Kyle?
Wanna guess?
I could make a guess, but no. You can let us know.
Jeopardy.
Very good, very good.
What were you gonna guess?
Well, I was gonna guess that you're probably doing like a rewatch of a show. I know you're a good old fan. I think of The Office. So I was wondering if you're doing a rewatch of that. But...
that's a shame. So the thing is that it's off Netflix now, so it's on
Oh
Peacock.
yeah.
So I don't access that anymore. But don't worry, I remember all the scenes in my head.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, you can do one of those things where you're sort of sitting in the dark, just sort of replay it for yourself. That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
So, in a way, yes. And also the reruns. You were not wrong with the reruns. So Jeopardy is having there's some Jeopardy episodes on Netflix reruns from previous years. However, that's being taken away because that is also moving on to a different streaming platform. So I will no longer be able to access those in the beginning of May. So I need to I'm just binge watching all of those right now, so I can preserve them while I can.
Yeah. What's your
So
thoughts on the streaming service industry?
streaming service industry. I the only thought I have as of now is that as long as I can access my materials, that's fine. The thing is though, I don't have access to Hulu or whatever Peacock, whatever. There's so many different streaming companies. Disney Plus, they're controlling everything now,
Hmm.
which is a shame. Um, but I guess you want to diversify. By all means, diversify because you have access. Because those were under your jurisdiction because NBC is supposed to have access to all their shows, right?
Yeah.
And they should have access to all their shows. But on the other hand, it's like, yeah, you have to buy all these different. Each one costs $10 a month, and you're buying 4 or 5 different ones, which is quite a
Yeah.
shame. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think I find it a bit weird how it's sort of like when you look at a neighborhood and there's like a pizza place that gets a lot of gets a lot of customers, and then someone opens up a pizza place like 2 feet from them. It's always interesting because I know like IMDb has a new streaming service now. I just
Really?
Who
Wow.
needs that, man? Who needs
I
that?
know.
I don't know. I feel like I don't know. I've always found that weird how like businesses that serve the exact same purpose as other businesses that are already successful, somebody's still motivated to start that business.
Oh,
I don't know. But fair
that's
enough.
weird.
All power to you if it works out. It just seems like a
Yeah.
very scary venture. Obviously, like there's the whole idea of like, oh, if there's an open market, capitalize on it. That makes sense to me. But
Mhm.
I don't know. I feel like there are times you sort of have to be like, okay, Netflix, Hulu, they have a kind of chokehold. We'll just let it go.
There you go. Yeah.
I know how it is.
You know
But I
what's
guess
interesting? Oh, go
yeah, they're
ahead. Go
doing
ahead.
originals, so I guess that's the only motivation really.
That's fair. They are doing it. Some are doing original, so that's within their content. You know what's interesting is that you always know how businesses are always grouped to each other. Like you
Hmm.
see gas stations in the same like they're like you said
Yeah,
2 meters away, restaurants in 2 meters away. I forget why, but that's like it's a business strategy that benefits both of them somehow. But
yeah,
it's interesting. You
it
want
is
some side?
indeed.
Yeah. What was I going to say earlier? Oh, so I remember if we're talking about the streaming services, your um your thesis defense. Do you have to do another thesis defense, or is it just the honors college?
From what I've understood, I only have to do one of the honors college. Yeah, I
Wait,
think I'm done.
you're done.
I don't know.
After,
I have to double check with like the math department of things, but I'm pretty sure that like that counts because it was very much being treated as that's the thesis defense. But I have to double check with the math department or something like that because
got it.
obviously that would kind of suck if I was under that impression, but the math department isn't.
Mm,
But no, I mean, I had 2 representatives from the mathematics department at my thesis defense, so surely that works enough.
yeah.
Um, so yeah,
Was Professor Chow on one of your
yeah.
professors?
There's Professor Chow, who is my actual thesis advisor, and then it's Dr. Daphne Liu, who is a professor in the mathematics department.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
See, for me, I have to present again to the chemistry and biochemistry department, so I have to convene a panel and then defend in front of them for an hour.
Okay.
So,
Well, I'll have to double check if I need to do that. Oh, we got a message
oh,
direct from Amanda.
so for me, that was something I signed up for. If you did sign up for that, I'm not sure if you have to. I would highly doubt that you have to, but maybe check. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to check. I'll have to check certainly. Yeah, no, it's been an interesting process. I think it's been good to have. I've always been someone who sort of thrived on the fact that it's like, oh, weekly assignments I can do, because short ones that are all the time, I sort of get in a good groove with. You sort of get them knocked out, you sort of get the routine established. But it's been
Hmm.
interesting to sort of develop the skills for a very long and big project for a very long period of time
Hmm.
because it becomes very crucial to sort of delegate tasks for yourself to be like, okay, I'm going to
Back.
get 5 pages done. Oh, hello, welcome back.
We good?
Hello.
We've been engaging in a casual podcast.
Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. Okay, there you
We're back.
go.
Okay.
We're back.
Can I just say one thing? You can edit this out. I'm just curious. How did Cindy know that I was talking smack? That I don't know about that.
I
It
mean,
was
they
the
could.
mole.
I don't know why, but I could hear all of that, even though. Did you guys bring me back in from the AFK channel?
Yeah, I brought you back in, but
Okay.
video wasn't being shared.
Okay, you guys can continue.
We're good.
All right,
Good. All
cool.
right. Let's keep it going. I'm gonna pack up my Pringles.
I guess just sort of finish off the point, yeah, it feels like you sort of have to delegate tasks for yourself because you definitely can't sort of be like, okay, I'm going to finish my thesis tomorrow. It's like, no, okay, I'll finish this small task of my thesis. And certainly it doesn't feel quite as good as, turning something in and being like, okay, here is my assignment. But I guess, that's what advisors are for, to sort of set up those soft due dates for you,
Yeah.
Alrighty. Okay, so where we left off, for those of you watching on YouTube, we had a little bit of a technical difficulty where we went into podcast mode and nobody could see our face, so we decided just to talk about some random stuff. But now we're back. So the topic that we were talking about was the differences in mentality / differences of study between undergraduate and graduate school, and the sort of what do you expect to experience in graduate school.
Say it one more. Say it again, George. I'm getting back into regular mode.
No worries. So, looking at the differences in mentality that you treat undergraduate versus graduate school, also the differences in what you expect to experience at graduate school.
Okay, so what's interesting is that in medical school, they say that it's a full-time job, which is obviously, as undergrads, this is kind of our full-time job too, right? But what's interesting is that you're not allowed to do anything else in medical school. So you can't get a job while you're in medical school. Your entire job should just be focused on doing well in class,
Okay.
being in the medical field. So doing your rotations, whatnot, when you go to your 3rd and 4th years. So I would expect, for me personally, I would expect to dedicate most, if not all, of my time to the medical school curriculum.
Okay.
However, there are some people who do things along the way. So there's people who do MD-MS, MD, PhD. So you have opportunities to explore things outside just the medical field. So you want to explore doing a PhD, you still want to do research. During your time while in medical school, you're allowed to do that, right? And then you do MS, MBA, so that's possible. But however, since medical school is I can imagine it to be pretty strenuous. I would expect it to be a little bit different from the undergraduate curriculum. And just one more thing on top of that, they say that when you're the undergraduate experience and the med school experience, like the pace of it is very different. So they say that learning information in medical school is like trying to drink water from a fire hydrant. So, and the water being all the information, right? So that's something that all we pre-med can look forward to in the future. So, yes.
Yeah, I've had brushes with the medical school experience via watching people from medical school on YouTube and things like that, and there's been two vastly different experiences that I've seen, and maybe you can comment on these two styles, both being sort of extremes of the scale. So, first person is quite a prominent figure in like the video game world. Is the sort of founder of this service called Healthy Gamer, Healthy Gamer GG, so Healthy Gamer Good Game, and the idea is to sort of spread ideas of mental health, video game addiction, things like that to the gamer community. His name is Dr. K, and on reflecting in his experience in medical school, he talks about how he studied very, very little. He studied for about 3 hours a day, but studied from 5 till 8. So before anything else in his day started, he studied for not that much, but early, when his brain wasn't focused on anything else. And so this then directly contrasted with a study tuber, I think it's called, right? Somebody on YouTube who publishes videos of study with me type things, who uploaded a video which was a non-time-lapsed study with me for 12 hours straight, right? So they studied from, I think it was something like, I can't remember this, I think it was like 8 to 8 or something like that. And they gave themselves like small breaks for lunch, things like that, but otherwise it was effectively 12 hours straight. Once you sort of reflect on those sides of the scale, where do you think you'll find more in line with what reflects your study techniques the most? So,
Well, first of all, I want to say that for those watching out there right now live and people who watch the video later, you should know that you should try to learn at your own pace. So you have to find your own style because you don't want to conform to any one style on either end of the spectrum. So you want to find what suits best for you. For me personally, I would say that I can see both ends. I can see one studying for like 12 hours. That's your you live and you breathe your study medicine. Yeah. And I can see you doing both like the 3 hours from 5 a.m. to 8 a.m. was it?
Yeah, something like that.
Pretty impressive waking up that early in the morning just to start off your day like that. for me, this is what I learned from someone from USC. So they're in tech right now,
Okay.
and it's something called the pancake model.
Okay.
So they say that, like I said earlier, the fire hydrant is a model of how medical school works, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So on the other end, however, there is something called a pancake model where you eat. So your job each day is to eat 3 pancakes, right? And now anyone can easily eat 3 pancakes, right, George? That's a pretty straightforward thing to do. You just gotta eat them. It's a pretty small amount. However, if you choose not to eat them, you're still gonna have 3 pancakes the next day, and they're gonna start stacking up. And one by little, they're gonna start stacking up if you don't refuse to eat them. And the day before you actually have, say, a big test or like some standardized test, and you have not eaten any of those pancakes, you have not learned all this information, it is physically impossible to learn all this information, to cram all those pancakes into your mouth. It's physically impossible to cram all the information to your head the night before. That's not possible. So if you eat a little bit every day, like 3 pancakes, if you do a little bit of something every day, then chances are that you will do well, not just in medical school, but just anything in general. If you just study a little bit, if you have that dedication to do that, then you should be fine in whatever you do. I when I enter if and when I enter medical school, I would like to subscribe to the pancake model
Yeah.
and just make sure that I study a little bit every day, if you know what I mean.
Certainly. I think also it's interesting that you can sort of begin to adhere to the sort of model of an occupation, right? It's like an occupation, you don't get it. It's not like as a doctor, you go, okay, there's one really important client who's going to have 15 different problems that you're going to need to solve, but it's in 4 weeks, so you don't need to worry about it right now. It's like, no, every single day you're going to have a client with a new and unique problem that you're going to need to solve, but it's not like you just be like, I don't want to deal with you right now, I'll deal with you in a bit. You got to focus on working in that gradual pace where every single day something's getting done. Yeah, and I think there are many ways in which to achieve that. I know lots of people like sort of rewrite their notes, or do a few problems of a problem set. Even if it's due in a few weeks, if they know the information now, they might as well start it now. Things like that. I think certainly the idea of studying like a little bit is one that definitely needs to be like developed as a habit. It's not something you just sort of flick and suddenly go. So what have been your steps to sort of make sure, okay, I'm going to build myself up to establishing this?
That is something that I'm still improving on, actually. Right now, as a because it's not something where you can go in and like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. Like I'm gonna start hitting the ground running as a freshman or even before then, right? I mean, obviously, I'm sure people can do that, but something you can always improve on, right? Just making sure you're always on track, that you don't procrastinate, make sure you're on top of things. So for me personally, having a timetable is a good start. Having an agenda, obviously, and then just making sure that you stick to it. Recently, I've been using the Pomodoro technique. So I'm sure many Eepsters out there know what the Pomodoro technique is. The 25 plus 5 minutes, or you can do the 10 plus 50. I believe is also possible. Just taking breaks in between. I think that's one way to make sure that to maintain that you're still on track doing work, but also taking the breaks necessary to just to stop at that time when you're like because you need that break, right? What's curious right now is that I don't know why it's called the Pomodoro technique, because Pomodoro is like tomato, right?
Yeah, I believe the idea is, I don't know if obviously this might be an analogy to something else that I'm not aware of, but definitely like the timers that you can get are in the shape of a tomato.
I
Like
see,
a
got
kitchen
it.
timer.
Yeah, I don't know if that's comes from another analogy, but that's certainly how I've come to understand it as part of it, because like it's like a tomato timer that you turn and stuff
Yeah,
like
the
that.
timer. I remember that now. I remember seeing the art that they have of the Pomodoro technique, like the model. They all show that. So
Yeah.
makes sense.
Interesting. So I think it's that's always been one of my hardest things as a student is when I'm watching like study advice things, and it sort of treats as this thing where it's like, okay, we just need to do it. You just need to do it, and it'll be fine. And it's always hard for me to motivate myself to do that. And I think one of the reasons why I find it hard to motivate is for a lot of us are somewhat cursed with high achievement in a way, because people say, oh, you can't cram, right? Oh, it's physically impossible to cram. But then we're fortunate enough / unfortunate enough, depending on your perspective, that there have been exams in undergraduate that I have crammed for, and it's worked, right? I've gotten a sufficient grade. Did I actually retain the information? Well, not really. But in terms of the stuff that will stay on my record, I did perfectly fine, right? So,
Mhm.
what have been some moments that you've sort of experienced? So, for me, one thing I remember a lot is in Honors Academy. There was my Honors Academy. It might not have been mine. It might have been one I went to as a mentor or something like that. There was a person who came in and talked about how they had very, very poor study techniques. They just crammed a lot, and they hit a brick wall.
Uh-huh.
And they sort of said, like, all right, students, you too will hit that brick wall, and that brick wall will motivate you to be like, okay, I need to get my stuff together. This isn't working. And it may come as sort of explicit and as face slapping as failing an exam, failing a class, that sort of tangible thing, or it can be as sort of self-imposed as come out of a class that you enjoyed, reflect and realize you have none of the information. So it's like, why did I take the class? I'm failing myself. So have you experienced any of those sort of brick walls or academic failures that have made you sort of reflect and be like, okay, I need to change it, I need to grow?
Who has access to this channel, George, in terms of watching this video? It's public, right? Like,
It is
just like,
public, so if you wish to sort of,
okay,
set
no.
things.
I'm just curious. I'm just curious. Most of the people who would watch this are just students, right? Not professors. Okay. I'm willing to tell this story. Pretty recent. Have you heard of Tim Urban?
I believe so. Let me give a quick Google just to sort of familiarize myself. Yes. Okay, yes.
Okay. Do you know what he's famous for? Like,
I do not. I know his face.
you know his face. So he did a TED Talk called
Oh, okay, yes. I've seen this TED Talk. Okay, yeah. All right, got it.
Inside the Mind of a Master Procrastinator.
Yeah.
He is how should I put this? There was a very famous story inside the TED Talk where he was working, he had to work on his thesis for his senior year, and he put his idea to take the whole entire year to work on it.
Mhm.
And then he would be like, oh, just walk, like, it's walking up the steps, because you're supposed to do like a little bit towards the beginning and you're going to put it into high gear at the end and working on your thesis defense, right? One thing led to another, and basically he had 3 days to write his entire thesis, 90 pages, and he had not written a single word yet.
Mhm.
So he had to write, so he pulled 2 all-nighters, stayed up 3 days to work on it. No human is supposed to pull 2 all-nighters.
Mhm.
And I remember him he says in the video that he was sprinting across campus and he got it just in the nick of time.
Mhm.
That's the epitome of being a procrastinator. Right?
Mhm.
Funny story. Last week when I had to finish my thesis defense for the honors college, it was due on Tuesday night, and I was working on some other things, so I couldn't get around to the thesis. I was actually doing research, trying to gather information
Yeah.
from my other projects. So I submitted my thesis defense at 11:59 on that night, which
Yeah.
is a very interesting parallel to Tim Urban. So I was like jokingly bragging to my friends, "Gonna call me master procrastinator now."
Yeah.
So moments like that, okay, if you want to have a reflection on that, okay, like you could work on this before, right? We had like a month to finish the defense. However, things went smoothly, as you said earlier with some tests that you retain information. Okay, maybe not, but according to the record, you're fine.
Yeah.
For me, however, since it's my thesis, I mean, I should be the master of the information I'm learning. Since this is something that I'm presenting on my own, something that I created in terms
Yeah.
of the research I've done. So that I would say is intact. It's just learning that because things are tough during quarantine, right? People like sometimes like your internal clock gets a little whack, should I say, because of being in quarantine. So because of that, kind of tough to try to maintain that. However, going forward, I know that that's something that we still got to keep working on, right?
Mhm.
Make sure that you don't want to be like that at the last minute if you can do something to prevent it. So that's just a little thing.
I guess then I think it's always been with any experience, obviously, but with undergraduate, it gets sort of exemplified as this idea of continual and constant growth, right? I feel like the reason why I sort of talk about it as being like, are you fortunate, unfortunate to be a high achiever is there's sort of this value in failing. Maybe not failing like a class and that being like, oh, well, then I can't do this now because of some X condition that means that I have to get a better GPA or something like that. Obviously, right, those feel more negative than positive. But in terms of your character, in terms of the person that you will be as a result of this failure, there comes a time where failing is almost a positive thing. It allows you to find things about yourself where you're like, okay, this is something I need to work on. You know, I feel like if somebody who, no matter what they do, they always get A's or something like that, right? It's difficult to summon the motivation to grow because it's like, oh, well, you know, do I really need to do this now? You know, I don't really need to do the pancake method if I can cram and still get an A anyway. And why do the pancake method when I can do other things that I want instead? Right? All these sort of things, it's hard to generate that internal motivation. But the abstract notion of growth is certainly one way in which we can start to build that internal motivation, which is like, all right, do I want to be this person who only crams, regardless of whether, oh, I get through grad school doing it, I can get through my job doing it, I can get through. Do you want to be that person? And I think that's interesting, the development of person, that growth. And so this is probably the most wholesome question written by yours truly, which is, why would the Kyle Taing in the Honors Academy be proud of the Kyle Taing that we see before us today?
I remember this question 2 weeks ago when Amanda asked you that exact same question. I forgot. All right, let me think here. 4. I cannot. First of all, I cannot believe that was 4 years ago. I'm just nostalgic just thinking about that. Time spent in Anguiano, Fisher, Chow. Like that was wow. I would looking 4 years ago. I have no idea that I'd be here today, being a senior at Cal State LA, finishing my thesis, about to graduate.
Mhm.
Like so, right at this point, I had not even been in the honors academy yet. So, so I was like, hey, I'm gonna do this like honors academy thing, like do this thing at Cal State LA. I have no expectations. I would be okay if I didn't get it because I have no idea what to expect for. I was expecting like PhD level Einstein and antisocial people. That was what I was expecting because I've never met anyone in EAP before, right? And I see this environment where everyone, like, it's a great environment to be in, especially for undergrad. This beautiful support network, and I'm still thinking right now, what would he be proud of? He'd be proud of just oh my, just where I am. If there's one specific thing, I think it's that the social aspect of it. Because academically speaking, sure, I've done quite well in my classes so far up to the point where it's going to graduate, right? But on the social end, I think it's that I think I've built some pretty long-lasting relationships in just like honors college and the early entrance program specifically. Sorry, I'm tripping on words, but I just think that is something that I had missing in middle school because it was just a different environment.
Yeah.
So I think it's just the friendships that I've had
Mhm.
in EAP. That's that.
So would you say that you are proud of yourself for seeking out those friendships? Proud of yourself for being a good friend? Like, what sort of internalized things are you sort of like, I'm glad that I have reached that level, you know?
I would say to both, and also just additionally to the friendships, it's just like where I am at Cal State LA. Sorry, I'm still trying to internalize that question myself.
Yeah, no worries.
Because being proud, I had no idea I'd be the president of a club. I have this role in the student government, right? That I get to publish. That I got to publish a paper. I'm just thankful for all the experiences that I got at Cal State LA. Looking back to where I am now, on the friendship aspect, reaching out to friends, obviously being a good friend. I'm just proud of. Also, I want to say I'm proud of like. If it's interesting because the first time that I mentored in 2018, right? Those people, the year below us, right, George?
Yeah.
So I'm also proud of where they are today.
Certainly.
So and I have very close friendships with the people that I mentor, which I'm also proud of. I don't know. It's tough to pinpoint on one specific thing. I'm just running through the entire experience in my head right now still.
Mhm.
So kind of surreal when you want to think about it nostalgically speaking.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, though, it's interesting. There's this idea of like, oh, well, before EAP, I had no idea that I could be a person that could do EAP, that could fit into the social environment, that could deal with all these pressures and still work through it. And so let's take it back to the idea of medical school. Do you think that current Kyle Taing can do medical school? Do you feel like there are still things you need to improve on before you get there? Changes you need to see in your life before you think you can conquer that beast? Or are you like, bring it on?
Let's go, bro. Okay. I think there's always something you can improve on, right? That's something like you can always be a better version of yourself tomorrow compared to where you are today. You just gotta work towards that. However, personally, right now, based on I'm going through the application cycle, and you look through everything, and you think, yeah, I can do it. Like I can take down the beast. It's just getting into the beast first that's kind of difficult, because once you're in, getting out is not. I don't think it's that big of a problem, because the retention rate at a majority of medical schools is very high, like 95% plus.
Mhm.
So I think getting in is the bigger issue. So we'll get inside the beast, as I said before.
Yeah, certainly. I feel like, yeah, and certainly the culture of these in educational settings is definitely what motivates these retention rates, things like that. It's just like it's a lot easier to imagine yourself growing in the EAP environment than it is before you even know what EAP is, right? It's a lot easier to be like, okay, current me will probably not be able to conquer X thing. But once I'm surrounded by peers who are also, struggling and trying to grow, and we can build off each other, things like that, that's where where the real growth happens. And with medical school, you have tons of like-minded individuals that you can find supports in. So on a more sort of baseline level, how has your experience with medical school applications, I don't know if acceptances, rejections have come out, things like that, how has that experience been for you?
So, interesting story. I'm sure many people who I'm close with already know the story. They've heard me say it again and again. So it's that COVID. So it was odds that how COVID happened last year, and everything started closing down, obviously, right? So one of the things that you have to take to apply to medical schools, the MCAT.
Yes.
As I'm sure many of you know. So the thing is that the MCAT they canceled dates for like 3 months of the MCAT, 2 to 3 months, because they didn't know how to transition. So my original MCAT date got canceled.
Yeah.
And I had to move to September of that year. And the thing was that I couldn't. What was it? The medical school applications. I couldn't access the medical school applications until I complete the MCAT. So I started doing my applications in September, October, which was kind of an issue, because the medical school applications is notorious for not only for the MCAT, but also you have to apply. It's not ideal to apply that far late in the process, because at that point, the applications have restarted filling up because of something called rolling admissions.
Yeah.
So by the time I was starting to catch up with my application, because I just got them, people are already start getting accepted. So that loosens up the spots that I have, so that makes the odds even lower than they can possibly be. So then on top of that, just trying to catch up doing the applications while still maintaining classes, because it was during the fall semester. So because of that, I still have to hear back from medical schools at this point, which is kind of surreal, because at this point most people have been accepted and I'm still waiting to hear back, which is kind of frightening a little bit. So right now I have two choices that lay before me. I hope that medical school will accept me this year, this cycle, because then I want to see the fruits of my efforts being rewarded. So obviously, right, for all the application I've been through, the entire 4 years that I spent, all the experiences that I've had, I want that to aside from the fact that I enjoy a lot from the experience, I want the med schools to see that I show why I could be as an undergraduate and why I could be in medical school. If that doesn't work out, however, realistically speaking, then I have to prepare for a gap year, right? Which is something that we want to talk about later on in the interview. But I was thankful enough, however, to get interviews from some medical schools once they got back to me. I'm still waiting to hear back from them too. So it just comes as a matter of time in, say, the 2-3 months from this interview dates when we'll get the results back, because technically I could be accepted as late as mid-August.
Yeah.
That's when that's when their school starts. So we'll see. We'll see. It just depends on what happens.
Yeah, and so it seems definitely that currently medical school is number one on the list, and gap year being a second on the list. Is it a close second? Is it something that you'll be interested in doing, and what sort of things would you be wanting to explore in a gap year? You looking just to sort of chill, travel, study other things? What are you thinking?
Chilling and traveling is actually pretty enticing, because that's something that you want to spend some time before you go back to the grind of going. So that's something that many undergraduates do, like not just EAPS, just undergraduates in general. They take a gap year or two before they go back to medical school. For me, I want to do that. That's something that I need to do, especially in the middle of a pandemic. I have to relax, get outside my house and my city a little bit, right? I also want to do some research opportunities.
Yeah.
If I were to take a gap year, just to enhance my experience and also learn from different medical fields, right? Which is kind of important. And then also volunteering, scribing at hospitals. Hopefully, more hospitals will open up in terms of the programs that they had back then prior to COVID. So that might be something I want to explore as well. Just something where I can learn more from, just from the medical community, so I know what I'm going to dip my toes into once I actually set my path forward into medical school once I get accepted.
Certainly. Yeah, I think it's very interesting. I think as somebody who there is that idea of there being lots of different fields you can possibly go into from medical school. And while, of course, medical school will open you up to a lot of these opportunities through classes and things like that, and get to know, okay, I don't really like this field, like Y field, so on and so forth. There is very few things that are quite as eye-opening as it is to go into a research opportunity in that specific field, right? That studies that specific thing. And so I can certainly see how that would definitely be very much of use and perhaps more effective in figuring out what you actually want to do rather than taking a class on it. So it appears we're approaching the hour mark here, or we've already passed it. So I think there are some general sort of big questions that I can ask to close. But before we get there, perhaps we can just open up the floor if anyone has any questions who are watching now. Anyone has any questions for Kyle Taing? But I guess while waiting for sort of questions to fill in, I suppose I should say I think one question that I've always been intrigued from someone who is looking to go into sort of medical school, these sort of highly competitive fields. It's definitely a very, very frightening thing regarding GPA and having to get highest GPA as possible, things like this, and due to the highly intense application process, getting high grades, things like that, are almost crucial to the process. Now, how has this sort of affected your views? And I asked the Charlotte as well. That's something that I'm quite interested in. How has this affected your views on on failure and perfectionism? Right? It's how do you treat something if you get a grade below what you expected? How do you work from that? How do you build on it?
That's a good question. So you remember how during the podcast section we're talking about the what quote what quote I would say. So during that time I was thinking, and then the perfect quote came to my mind. I think this is a really good quote. I learned this from I think my first year of us being in EAP. I believe the quote was, "Failure is what gives success its flavor." Which I think is I think that's a quote that I want to live by. And it kind of corresponds well to your question.
Yeah.
So the idea that I know that, like you said earlier, that medical school admissions is kind of cutthroat. You're trying to get the highest grades possible, the highest scores possible, trying to compete for a very limited amount of spots, right?
Yeah.
So the mindset of that is that obviously everyone's gonna fail sometime in their career, in their life. Like it might not even be their career. It's just like you're gonna fail at something sometime along the way, right? It's just learning how to pick yourself back up from that, because you can, even though you fail, you can still learn a lot from that failure. Arguably, you can learn more from your failure than you can from your successes when you actually succeed, because that's what makes it that much more valuable, from being where you want to be in your life and looking forward afterwards in the future.
Yeah, certainly. Failure is something that provides, as I said a little bit earlier, provides a lot more insight into who you are than successes, certainly, than success does. Granted, I'm not saying that you can't learn from success, but I would say that failure is perhaps more effective in teaching you what you feel you need to change, or what you feel is lacking in yourself. Yeah, certainly. Once again, just sort of reminding in the chat if you have any questions. We're going to probably wrap up around the 2:30 mark if no questions come in. So to sort of wrap things up, I suppose. I think one purpose of these interviews is also to get insight into academic and study tips and grad school and things like that to sort of provide inspiration, but also just to get to know people. You know, it's been a long time since, you know, a lot of people have had chats with people, or, you know, the people that we want to know about, want to know what they're doing, what they're getting up to. So what's your day-to-day life looking like during these times? What are you getting up to? What you doing?
Mostly, let's see, classes, obviously.
Yeah.
I want to go back and learn to play some instruments, actually, like you said earlier, piano. I haven't done a lot of piano after doing the talent show. Remember the talent show that we had? So yeah, so I want to get back to that. I was going to get a guitar during winter break. I want to learn to play guitar, but I keep forgetting to do that. I want to do that with my friend Kinsley, because she wanted to she was getting it, and I keep forgetting. So I'm gonna do that after I graduate. Something I can do during the summer.
Yeah.
Let's see here. What else? What else have I done? Jeopardy, obviously. I gotta finish binge watching my Jeopardy, and doing classes, studying for finals, watching a lot of YouTube, Netflix,
What are you watching on YouTube? What are we watching?
random clips, music, like watching music videos, talk shows, what's it, like video game streams I've been dabbling into. So that's
What games?
okay. So my sister introduced me a lot of Minecraft streaming and Twitch as well. So
Nice.
that's been pretty interesting.
Cool.
Oh, and also a fun fact is that I was gonna wear this, like, have you remember Neon Friday from the first year?
Of your dress?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. I was gonna wear that for favorite, and then I just realized it's Sunday. Neon. So yeah,
Yeah, that kind of
There you
defeats
go.
us, unfortunately. Yeah, certainly.
hopefully people who watch this will only watch it on Friday, so this would
There you
actually
go.
make
There you
sense
go.
from the rankings. So yeah. Any questions?
This Friday, you know, during the pandemic, days don't exist anymore. Time's just whatever. Time's social
Time-
construct, so it's
Yeah.
fine.
I was just gonna say it's a social construct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's Friday. There you go. Cool. All right. Well. All right. So here we go. We have from Ryan. We have whether before Eve or during, would you say that there's a watershed moment that changed how you viewed any aspect of life?
Watershed. I can't think of anything outside Eep. So because if I used the like a story with an Eep, like
Yeah.
my past. All right. So Dr. Richard Maddox, the interview I had with him. I remember that day, the first Eeps I ever met were Jacob and Michelle, and they were trying to show me the ropes of how Eep was before I actually met Dr. Maddox.
Yeah.
But I was within that interview, that, like, because Dr. Maddox, we were talking for, say, an hour, right? And he decided. I remember him saying at the end, because I had no idea what to expect from that interview either before probably summer. So it was him saying at the end, all right, Kyle, if you step over to the next room, Isabel's going to take a picture of you so you can get ready for probably summer.
Mhm.
And I think it was that moment where I believed maybe I could do something at a like at the college level, because at that point I was in 8th grade. I had no idea what to expect. I when I first heard about the program, I started laughing. Like, can you imagine me being in this program? Is that even possible? So I think that was the moment where I told myself, wow, I'm this could be the start of something new for me, something greater. So that'll be my personal watershed moment, like something that changed my how should I say, change my life. Yeah, it really did change my life if you think about it. I know Dr. Malice is very controversial within EAP for some of the many things he's done. I'll always be thankful for that one moment where he decided to let me try out, and he took a chance in because he saw something in me. That's what I think.
I think a key feature of a lot of people in the early entrance program is this idea of the Dr. Alex used to talk about it, the imposter syndrome, right? This idea that I shouldn't be here. I'm not really, I'm looking at all these people, they're doing all this stuff. I'm not doing all this stuff. I shouldn't be here, And I do feel like that interview process, or at least the process of application, even being able to go to the summer, even being able to experience this, is just that validation is crucial. And I feel like that validation is one that I have a grand plan for sort of trying to find a way for the Honors Academy to become less of this get in, don't get in, and all these people using timelines like, oh, if you get in, XYZ, oh, if you don't get in, XYZ. It's like, feels like it's like this like test, like if you're good enough, you'll get in. And I find that just the ability to go to the Honors Academy, the ability to have this experience is valuable in itself. And I wish that we can direct the early entrance program towards being more of a view of it being a different path than traditional education. Not necessarily better, not necessarily worse. There are sides to it. There are definitely, certainly, if you wish to have rapid academic acceleration, that can be achieved in a number of ways, and EAP is just one of them, right? And so it's that those moments of validation to tell you that, hey, you're doing things right, you're out here, and the program appreciates you, the people around you appreciate you. That's what really makes things. That's better for me. That's better than any grade on an exam, is to have that sort of validation from peers, validation from the social settings. So it's very.
I agree completely. The experience
knocks down the imposter syndrome right off the bat, I suppose.
It did, yeah. I just want to say, if we're going to end soon, before we do, I just want to say like one thing on the note of Dr. Maddox. Like, I'll forever be thankful for him. I know that unfortunately we heard last year that he passed away. So may he rest in peace.
Yep.
And I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity that he gave me. I'll never forget that.
Yeah. I think that he had a notable impact on a lot of people's lives, and that'll be forever remembered.
Of course, yeah.
All right, so if you have any questions, get them in now, but I think we'll probably just wrap up here. Just a reminder for people, if you do have questions following the interview, questions on something Kyle said, another question you'd like answered perhaps by Kyle, we do have in the EAP Discord, we have a text channel called, let me find it, interview Q&A. So if you just go into that channel, it's Kyle's week, I suppose. So up until next Sunday when we have a new interviewer, or whenever we get a new interviewee, Kyle has full reign of that. So if you ask a question there, Kyle can come in and maybe answer it. Or if you wish, you can post questions in the comments of the uploaded YouTube video following the conclusion of this stream. Just ask questions such as, "Hey Kyle, what's your favorite brand of cereal?" Something like that, and then we can let Kyle know. Kyle can come in, answer the question, and so 2 avenues to ask questions. Or of course, you can just contact Kyle yourself. Well, all right. It doesn't appear that we have any other questions. So, Kyle Taing, thank you very much. It's been
always a pleasure, George.
Talking to you. And good luck on all your future endeavors. Med school seems like a challenging place, but one that I'm sure you will thrive in nonetheless. So, all right.
Thank you, George.
Thank you, Amanda, also for streaming this.
Yeah.
Thank you all for attending.
Thank you all for stopping by. Thank you so much, everybody.
All right. Thank you. Bye bye.